Welcome to the IdahoSports.com football preview shows. 2016 football season right up upon us. It'll kick off on August 26th. I'm Hoenike, Matt Harris, Paul Kingsbury. This is the 3A classification, right smack in the middle, if you will. And no defending champion to talk about. You take a look at the bracket from last year's 3A state playoffs. You see the Emmett Huskies. They win the championship. They're moving on up, if you will. They're in the 4A classification. So, guys, no defending champion to worry about. The canvas is wide open, and it's a race to fill that seat.
It's kind of like the Emmett Husky mic drop. Thank you, we won the trophy. We're out.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly
well played. No one can ever take it from you.
That's right.
That's right. They'll, and that's the cool thing now is you'll potentially see a new champion come in. There's some good
well, not
teams.
Potentially, you will.
Oh, I mean, you'll see a new champion come in. You'll see I meant to say potentially a lot of good teams that could step up. Ones that haven't won a championship before that could step up and potentially win one.
Let's start over in District 5 and District 6, if you will, starting with the Mountain Rivers Conference 3A. Shelley, South Fremont, Sugar Salem, Teton. Matt, that's your wheelhouse, East Idaho game night. You've been over there for a long time. That's going to be a tough conference.
It's arguably the toughest conference in 3A, and all of the coaches in the Mountain Rivers Conference agree with me when in preparing for our IdahoSports.com statewide preview. They all felt the same way. They said this is probably the toughest conference in 3A conference in the state. I mean, you got Sugar Salem coming back. They went 9-2 last year. They are a very, very good team. South Fremont went 6-4. You got Shelley. They kind of had an off year, but Shelley is still a powerhouse program. Teton can come up and surprise you in any given year. This year, it's going to be a very, very tough conference overall. All of the coaches thought last year was going to be tough. They ended up finishing with Sugar Salem in first and a three-way tie for second. This year, they feel it could be the exact same way. So if you're a fan of 3A football, you're going to see some really good football in the Mountain Rivers Conference this year.
Boy, with Shelley, you love to be able to look down and see 5-5 and say, man, we really struggled this year. We all know there's some teams out there. They'd love to have a 5-5 season, but that's just how high the bar is for Shelley.
Well, when you have 6 state championships, which I believe they have now, I mean that's championship or bust seemingly every single year. And they were under their first season under Jake Monahan. They lost quite a few seniors who had played very key roles for the Shelley Russets in previous years. Now they're starting to establish that culture again. What's it going to be like under Coach Monahan? Kind of the same thing now. They're back to those, at least from what I see on paper and from what I've heard from the coaches. They anticipate Shelley being very, very tough. And then you look at a team like South Fremont. You know, South Fremont had some down years there for a while. Sure. Chad Hill came in 2012, started out with a 1-7 record, only a 1-win season. But since that time, built it up to 3 wins. Then they went to 7 wins. Then went down to 6 wins last year. But they did, make it to the state quarterfinals again. What do they do for an encore this year? Can they make it to the next round of the state tournament? And then you look at Sugar Salem. They're a team that has never, ever won a state championship. Sugar Salem, they are a team that they've only been in the state championship game once, only to the state semifinals 3 times in their school's history. Yeah. They went last year. They fell to Emmett, the powerhouse team that was the Emmett Huskies last year. They lose a 2,000-yard rusher in Derek Ostermiller. Well, how do you replace that? Believe it or not, Tyler Richens at Sugar Salem told me that he believes their team is deeper this year at running back and will rush for more yards than they did last year, which is unfathomable to me considering how much they ran last year. And if he's confident in that, considering the quick turnaround he's made of the Sugar Salem program, it's hard not to believe the guy.
Right. It's exciting to see a program that hasn't had a lot of success have success. Here we're always neutral. We love the game of football, and to see these towns like Sugar Salem come out and say, you know what, they've got a shot this year. It's fun to see. Shelley, keep bringing Brian Leckington back. You've got a second-year program under the coach, but you've got a senior quarterback. He's the leader. He's the guy on the team that everybody looks to. He's got the swagger. He's got the confidence behind him. And having that senior quarterback means so much to a team. And you got those guys coming up behind, but that's exciting as well. So that's a tough conference. It might be one of the toughest conferences in 3A.
Sugar Salem, they have 4 kids coming back who had all-state honors last year. You've also got Blake Barchi from South Fremont. He'll be back for his senior year as well. Moving down the road a little bit, if you will, to the Southeast Idaho Conference. Only 3 teams in that conference. Snake River won the conference last year. Marsh Valley, American Falls, the other 2. How do you guys see that one shaping up?
It's going to be a lot closer than it has been in previous years, Will. I mean, in the previous years, it's been Snake River and then that's it. I mean, they only get one bid to state. Right. There's only a 3-team conference. But American Falls has had rough years. Marsh Valley's had quite a few rough years. They've been 3-29 in the last 4 years. Marsh Valley with a new coach now, and Doug Armstrong. Tony Cade did an excellent job at American Falls last year. They went 4-5. The program is building up there. He started a lot of sophomores and juniors last year. He's going to have a great opportunity to be able to get them more experience. And in the second year of a program is normally when you see them kind of lift off a little bit, if that's what the trajectory is. And I think that they're going to have a very good year as well. Snake River's got a new coach, and Jeb Harrison, of course, his father.
Familiar name.
Very familiar name. The field there is named after his father.
No pressure.
Yeah, no pressure
yeah.
whatsoever. And so they lose a number of all-state and all-conference kids. 8 of their 11 starters on offense were all-conference kids who are now gone. They were seniors. They lose practically everyone on offense. They bring back some guys who got a little bit of experience on defense. But for them, it's almost a bit of a whitewashing in the sense that you're going to have a new coach, new system,
right.
And now you're playing a lot of players who maybe don't have quite as much experience as the guys who left beforehand. But that's going to be a good conference. I think it's going to be a lot closer than people think, Paul.
Well, you mentioned new coach, just like Marsh Valley. Have a new coach, new coach, new attitude, as you've put it. Mm-hmm. It's always interesting to see how a team reacts to a new coach. They buy into the system. They buy into the coach. If they do, things start clicking. The mechanism works, and you can build off of that. Sometimes it's in year 1, sometimes it's in year 2 or 3, but it can work. If the kids don't buy into it, if the parents don't buy into it, that's when you start having problems. So, as a new coach coming in, Armstrong, I'm sure he's thought of this a million times, kept him up at night, but he's heading into it. Brand new program under his belt. He's going for it. He's got a new team, new attitude, as you put it. And it's going to be fun to watch Marsh Valley.
Yeah, I was just going to say, they're a team that I think there's a lot of talent there that just hasn't been harnessed very well in the past couple of seasons. You bring in a fresh face in Doug Armstrong, who was there during the good years under Jason Taylor at Marsh Valley, and he knows Marsh Valley. He understands the dynamics there. He understands the players, and he's just basically building their confidence back up and just saying, "Hey, you guys have just as mumuch talent as anyone else out there. We just need to harness it and organize it in a way that'll help us to win football games."
Over in the District 3 Snake River Valley Conference, you almost have to just start with Fruitland. It feels like every year it was Bruce Schley for a number of years, who's the head coach now. It's Ryan Tracy. It feels like every year we're saying, okay, at some point the attrition has to kick in. These guys, Fruitland is sending guys Division I to play football. It feels like on almost a yearly basis. They do have a couple of all-state kids back, Tyler Aguirre and Casey Rodriguez, so there are a couple of good skills back. But, for lack of a better way to put it, does Fruitland keep extending this incredible run they've been on over the last decade?
Well, Homedale. We can't forget about the Trojans. They made it into the semis last year, losing to Gooding. Homedale has been really the team the last couple of years to look at, and this year Homedale Fruitland I think is really going to be I think the conference or those two teams play on the 30th.
Yep,
could be for the conference,
and that's in Homedale, which
right.
As they like to say, you don't just play the team, you play the whole town in
a bowl. Great place for football.
Great setup. And Fruitland, they had that incredible run of making it to 9 straight state title games prior to last year before Sugar Salem knocked them off in the quarterfinals. And that doesn't take away from the tradition that they have and the program that they have set up. If you have a program set up where kids are constantly shuffling through, they understand the system, by the time they get to the high school level, they're still running the same stuff, they're going to have a better instance, whereas if you go to a school that changes coaches every couple of years and the kids have to learn a new system and whatnot, it's an expectation to win in Fruitland. It is not okay to lose there. You have to win when you're in Fruitland, and they've certainly lived up to expectations a lot of time. Now it hasn't turned into a lot of state titles.
Right.
They've fallen quite a bit in those state championship games, but they're there every single year.
Well, they are. And growing up, I grew up in New Plymouth, and back then Fruitland and New Plymouth were in the same conference. Mm-hmm. Rivalry. Hardcore to the bone. And the old timers that are still from that era still consider it a rivalry, even though they're not in the same. They never play each other. But that tradition was in place then as well, and winning. Winning is the tradition in Fruitland. So watch out for the SRV with Homedale and Fruitland this year.
A new head coach, a veteran head coach, a guy that's been around. Kip Crofts in at Payette. John Schrolik at Weezer's been there for about 150,000 years. and his kids, he's got some good, strong kids out there. He's got 3 all-conference kids coming back. Moving down I-84 now to the Sawtooth, Sawtooth, Idaho Conference in District 4. Buell, Filer, Gooding, Kimberly. this has kind of been Gooding's playground for the last few years, and you look down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 first-team all-conference kids back for head coach Cameron Anderson.
This is a very good team. I mean, they made it to the state championship game finally. It feels like they've at very slow progression. I think his seventh year was last year, I believe, and slowly building his way up to the state championship. Couldn't quite get past those Eastern Idaho teams for a couple of years in the state tournament. They do so last year. They had a great offense led by Wyatt Williams last year, and obviously he's gone now. He's on to bigger and better things. But Gooding is a team that has that tradition and that work ethic and whatnot in place, and they it's not going to be a cakewalk for them this year. Kimberly is a team that can certainly step up and potentially knock them off.
Right. As far as Gooding getting past Eastern Idaho, do we congratulate the kicker? Or too soon? No?
Too soon. Too soon. Right. Yes, too
Kimberly. Kimberly is one of those teams that I may or may not talk about later on in the program.
Oh, that's what we like to call a tease in the industry.
Yeah. but Buell Filer, success in the past, building for the future right now. I think we'll see them down the road. I mean, they're returning some first-team, some second-team players. Filer, Ritchie, and Lammers coming back, for instance. Buell, wide receiver Cleverly, second team, and Polar, great player at linebacker. So they've got good building blocks and head coaches in place to get the job done.
Well, now specifically to Buell, a very late change at head coach as Rick Wells moves on to another opportunity, and Seth Blick, the Castleford native and product, he steps into a head coach late in the game.
Where's
there
that,
for the
Castleford?
You don't call it a Ford. You don't drive a Ford.
Right. You drive a Ford, Castleford. Yeah, he was the defensive coordinator for Buell, and he said, we're going to keep some of the things that Coach Wells did, but we're also going to change it the way that I believe it should be run. It's been really focused on conditioning. I read in the Twin Falls Times-News that that's what he's really focusing on this year. He believes that's how you get mental toughness. And I mean, you change a coach so late in the season, it could make things difficult. Are you changing your offense? Are you going to change your defense? What are the things you're going to tweak that are different from the year prior? Then you look at Filer. They've got Rob Anderson now in as the head coach, and he's previously been here in Idaho, and Filer's been down for a number of years now. What does he bring to the table? Can he get Filer organized and fired up and make them competitive again in the Sawtooth Central Idaho Conference?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, I think we're going to be looking at a Gooding Kimberly. They play again September 30th, Kimberly at Gooding.
Yeah, the winner of that game certainly positions themselves well.
Very well positioned.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Heading up north now to the 3A Intermountain League, and this is a league that, we talk about how Gooding has had their run as the bully of the 3A in District 4. We've talked about Fruitland. In the Intermountain League, it's been Timberlake. And it hasn't just been Timberlake winning the conference. It's been Timberlake annihilating the conference for any number of years. Roy Albertson and his staff doing a tremendous job there in Spirit Lake. And in talking to Corey Kramer, the head coach of Bonners Ferry, when you hear Coach Albertson and his staff going, well, maybe this year we got to break in some new kids, Corey Kramer kind of gave me that sideways smile and says, yeah, they say that every year, and then they come out and they just throat punch everybody.
Right. And this year, Bonners Ferry actually looks pretty good.
They do.
I believe you wrote the preview on that, if I remember right. Good. You can actually read the preview on Idaho Sports, but good preview coming up. Bonners Ferry's got their quarterback, Stockton coming back, running back Nick Saban, Harrington, wide receiver, and on defense, Verrilman and Lavla. It's a good defensive core right there, and with a good offense, it'd be nice to see someone challenge Timberlake. Not that I'm anti-Timberlake. I'm just saying it's nice to see some parity.
Timberlake would hate that. I'm sure Timberlake wants, they want to roll through Kellogg, Priest River, and Bonners Ferry again.
As a fan, you'd like to see that.
Yeah.
And it's tough, too, because a lot of the teams from southern Idaho, District 3, 4, 5, 6, they don't see a lot of the District 1 teams. They don't know a lot about them. So when it comes to state tournament time, well, what do they run? How do you know what they... I mean, it's just you don't get to scout them as much. You don't see them as often. And so it's tough to see what comes back from year to year and to kind of plan for that when it does come to that time.
Well, even during the season, you look at those 4 North Idaho teams. Between the 4 of them, they play 12 non-Idaho teams during their seasons. That's 3 teams each on average.
A lot of Montana, a lot of Washington, and you'll even see a couple Albertas in there.
Yeah, once in a while. We've actually done an Alberta, I believe.
There's teams that I played in high school. I'm originally from Alberta. There's teams from the conference that I played in Alberta that come down and play Bonners Ferry and Timberlake every so often. So, and for them it's, now we got to switch from Canadian to American rules and figure that all out.
Shorten the field.
Shorten the field.
We only pay him 80% of what we do the
70%. 70% exchange rate right now. Saving you some money.
Pay him in toonies and loonies. They walk out of here with a bunch of coins.
Pay Monopoly money as well. All the colors on there. But for the IML, for them, if it's been Timberlake's, it's been Timberlake's league. It's going to be Timberlake's league until someone knocks them off. And I think I agree with you. Bonners Ferry has a good chance this year.
Time for now our on the spot segment where I get to play a little bit of the omnipotent one here and put these two guys on the spot. And Paul, we're going to start with you on this one. 3A team, maybe a little bit sleeper. People maybe not talking about the team. Who would you go with?
Kimberly. We always talk Gooding. It's been their league. Kimberly, Rich Bishop, 4th season as head coach. Spent 14 years as an assistant. These seniors on his team were born when he came to Kimberly. So they've been around a while. Been around a very long while. Now this team, they're stacked, guys. They're stacked. Senior Zach Wright, all-conference quarterback. 2 senior all-conference wide receivers, and Braden Coronado, Braden Cummins. Braden times 2 on that one. They're great offensive core. Kid to have your eye on and have a huge year for the Bulldogs is Mason Egbert. You can actually see his picture. We've got his picture up there on Idaho Sports on their preview. All-conference defensive back, one of the best slot receivers in Idaho is what they're saying. There's always that cliche of, we'll be great if we can stay healthy. When you write previews, you always love to hear that. Well, as long as we stay healthy. But in this, it's true. Talent and experience will take you just as far as your health will. You can have the most talented and experienced guys in the world, but if they're on the sideline on crutches with ice, it doesn't do you any good.
A lot of teams are a sprained ankle away from a much different season.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Matt, what about you?
I'm actually going to go with a team that actually won the conference last year, and that's Sugar Salem.
Way to put yourself out there.
Go out on that limb.
I'm going out on a limb here. But
I really think the Notre Dame football team could get a lot of television games.
Yeah, they might, and they might make a lot of money off of it as well. Maybe. And here's the reason I'm going with them. It's because, obviously, Sugar Salem, they don't exactly have a football tradition that we've talked about quite a bit here about, with like the Fruitlands and all the other schools that have that tradition of consistently winning. Sugar Salem doesn't have that, but Tyler Richens is trying to establish that. Obviously, they made it to the state semifinals last year, but they lose Derek Ostermiller, a 2,000-plus yard rusher. He scored 27 touchdowns last year by himself, either through the air or on the ground. He had several games where he had 300 yards of rushing by halftime. So that's a big piece of your offense to lose. Then you lose your quarterback as well, and Ethan Arnold, who also played stellar at linebacker. You lose some parts of your line. The reason I'm saying that because normally when you lose those players, you're probably going to have a bit of a more down year overall. At Sugar Salem, however, they now have depth all across the board at every single position. And because of that, now they have the opportunity here to really make a run at 3A. Now that Emmett's out of the way, now that Fruitland they're trying to reestablish themselves in the SRV. Now that Snake River maybe a little bit down this year. This could be their year to do it. They scored 48 total touchdowns last year, 27 of them by Ostermiller, and only 8 touchdowns were scored by players who returned this year. So that's going to be a bit of a question. Where's your scoring going to come from? Who's going to step up and fill in? But looking at talking with Coach Richens in his preview and looking at it, they are stacked across all of those positions. They have a great opportunity here to be able to potentially maybe run the table. You never know. One rival coach in the conference told me, said he'd be very, very surprised if they did not win at least 10 games this year. Wow. He felt that the state title went through Sugar Salem. And that's saying something for a school that has never won anything in football. It's a bold thing. And, then you look at their conference as well. That's not an easy conference. Right. We mentioned that previously. The conference toughness is going to help them down the road. The question is, how does their new quarterback fit in? How do their new running backs fit in? But if they can figure it out and figure it out quickly, they're going to have a good opportunity.
Yeah, and going with mine, just for fun, we mentioned it's Timberlake's League. I look for Bonners Ferry and maybe even Priest River. A lot of seniors on that Priest River team to give Timberlake a push. To be determined if they can topple the giant, if you will. But I do think that the IML is going to be a lot tighter this year than it's been in years past. We're going to take a time out here on Idaho Sports. When we come back, we're going to talk about some changes in the 3A, some new things to get used to, some new things to know. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back on the IdahoSports.com football preview show.
Check out my multi-movie simulation station.
Why wouldn't you just take Cable One's new Ultimate TV experience powered by TiVo? It's a whole home DVR that lets you record 4 HD shows at once.
Oh, cool.
Cable One, it's just common sense.
Some people go the extra mile. Your Northwest Toyota dealer goes the extra 25,000 miles. They give you 2 years or 25,000 miles of no-cost maintenance and 24-hour roadside assistance. It's called Toyota Care, and it's included with every new Toyota. That means wherever you are, you'll be prepared for anything. Get Toyota Care no-cost maintenance and roadside assistance at your Northwest Toyota dealer today. The best in the Northwest. Toyota Toyota. Let's go places.
Valleywide Cooperative is a locally owned farm supply cooperative committed to meeting the needs of its customers since 1920. We provide you products and services of the highest quality. We are found serving our customers throughout southern Idaho, eastern Oregon, western Wyoming, and other neighboring states. We provide agronomic products and services, bulk feed and petroleum, competitive services in our propane division, and a vast array of products in our Valley Country store locations. Let us help you. Come see us today at Valleywide Cooperative.
Here come the last of the 2016s.
Stylish Prius, sporty Camry, adventurous RAV4, they're all here. But not for long. Come in and get the 2016 Toyota you want before they are gone.
Toyota, let's go places. It was our dream to move out here. I just wasn't sure what she would think. Took her away from her friends. Asked her to do twice the work of most kids her age. But through it all, she never gave up. On me or anything else. Wonder where she learned that. Massey Ferguson, the last tractor you'll ever need.
Welcome back to the IdahoSports.com preview show. We're talking 3A football. I'm Will Hoenike, joined by Matt Harris and also by Paul Kingsbury, where it's time to talk news and notes, if you will, with the 3A classification. One thing we're making sure to mention in all of these classifications is that there's now a statewide mercy rule. For as long as we've been doing 8-man football here on IdahoSports.com, there's been an 8-man mercy rule in some size, way, shape, or form. But now that extends all the way up to 5A, including 3A. So, Matt, why don't you walk us through the new mercy rule and how it impacts potentially these 3A teams?
All right, for 2A through 5A schools, so obviously 3A, that counts in there, what'll happen is any point when it gets to the 40-point threshold in the second half, starting at halftime or any time in the second half, once it reaches a 40-point margin in points in the lead, the clock starts to run. And the only time it stops is during injury timeouts, during officials' timeouts, during coaches' timeouts, if they want to stop the game for whatever reason, and also during touchdowns and scores. That's the only time that the clock will stop. Otherwise, it will continuously run and will not. It's not like if a team all of a sudden brings it within 20 points, right, that'll start stopping. No, it'll just continually be a running clock. And I think it's a good move for Idaho, especially because you hate seeing huge blowouts, Paul, and you hate seeing, just fans having to suffer through that and kids having to suffer through that as well. But the mercy rule now allows for the second and third stringers to really get in there, get some quality time.
Right, and you don't see it as much in the 11-man game as you do in the 8-man game. You've got the bigger field, you've got the fewer players. But it does happen once in a while. And when it does, I think this is a good move by the association to implement this. For those few times that it does happen, it's going to make things go a lot better for everyone involved.
Agreed.
In the 3A and 2A classifications, one thing that you're going to start seeing a little bit more of, guys, is schools scheduling that 9th game again. Yeah. Some of those, particularly in the 3A and 2A, you saw some teams maybe dropping down to just an 8-game regular season, and some of it was strictly, cost-based. Yeah. But you'll start seeing some of those teams add that 9th game in again this year.
And years ago, was it 2008, I think, when it happened, when the economy tanked. They thought it was best to shrink the season down, save some money. Again, good idea. Now, economy is a little bit better. And so now we're at a point where we can schedule those games again. Again, good move. I'd love to see us schedule as many games as humanly possible. Right. Play every night of the week.
I'm with you there. I love seeing the games. I know that there's those out there who talk about, well, if you have less games, there's less chance for injury. But we're playing the game as well. Right. We're here. Let's
play football.
And here's the interesting is Idaho plays the fewest amount of games out of any state in the nation when it comes to high school football regular seasons. And so to add that 9th game, you give another opportunity for the kids to participate in high school sports, which is why we're all here in the first place. I think it's great.
Well, it's funny. You put things in perspective. You got, teams will have their spring camps. They'll have their summer camps, their team camps, their individual camps. They start practicing, early August. You do all that for potentially an 8-game season. I mean, you're investing a lot into essentially 8 days. So just getting that 9th game, for some schools, that's a big deal.
Well, on top of that, when we came here today, the Booster Club president was marking the field 4 lines. They're up there painting the press box right now. All of that for potentially 3 or 4 home games.
Yeah.
That's a lot of work, a lot of effort that goes into the game of football. And so the more games you can get, better for everybody.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And some teams do only have just the 3 home games from time to time. A change coming here to IdahoSports.com. We want to make sure everybody knows about it. For years, IdahoSports.com has been the home, period, for online high school state tournament coverage. That'll change a little bit this year. We're not the exclusive home for video webcasts, but Paul, your basketball championships, your basketball tournaments, your state football championships, they'll still be available on IdahoSports.com, just a little different format.
Tweak just a little bit. In years past, IdahoSports.com has held the video and the audio rights. This spring, the board decided to move away from that arrangement and bring in an out-of-state company for the video rights. Last week, the board of directors of the IHSA approved an audio streaming contract for IdahoSports.com that gives us the exclusive audio streaming rights. Now, a couple things that people have asked about that is, number one, how does that affect radio stations? It doesn't. What we do isn't radio. The radios have their own arrangement with the IHSA and the schools. Once they have that, the 3-headed monster down, they can go. The more radio stations at state tournaments, the better, in my opinion. The more coverage for these kids in those different mediums, all the better. The only thing is if those radio stations want to stream on their websites, that's where we need to have that discussion with them. The other question is, what the heck is audio streaming? What does it do? It's just like radio, but better. Radio, you're in that 50-mile radius. You're in that 75, whatever the wattage is. Here, you can be listening to these anywhere in the world, and the best thing is these games, audio streams will be absolutely free of charge. Now, in football, we'll do as many playoff games as we can. We'll do as many as we can, possibly with video. It depends on an arrangement that might be worked out with the IHSA and the network. But once we get to state basketball, all 132 games, boys and girls, will be broadcast live on Idaho Sports, audio only, for free. So you can count on us for that. Regular season, we're still here. Video, just like it's always been. Regular season, district tournaments, we're there.
Yeah, and those webcasts will start on August 26th. Take a look at some of those games that we have scheduled coming up right there, the Rocky Mountain Rumble, which will happen over at Holt Arena in Pocatello. But a number of games, including some smaller teams like American Falls will be in there in week 1. Some great early matchups here on IdahoSports.com.
You got Snake River playing Blackfoot the very first week. That's a rivalry, battle for Blackfoot. You've got American Falls, Aberdeen, like you mentioned. That's a war of the reservoir. You've got Shelley playing in the Rocky Mountain Rumble against Snow Canyon out of Utah. And there's some other games scheduled on later in the season we'll probably get to. I know Snake River Shelley's on the docket for week 2. That's a rivalry game as well.
Yep.
So there's a lot of good games overall that we'll get to. I think there's a couple South Fremont games in there from Eastern Idaho. I think we've got Gooding South Fremont on the very
first week.
That very first week, that's a very good one.
It'll be an interesting one. I hear there's some history there. So Gooding South Fremont would be a good one. That's where Magic Valley game night will be with Scott and Mike. So that's where they'll be, and we'll have CUNA at Bishop Kelly. We've got a broadcast team up in District 2 now. Grangeville at Moscow, hitting that one. Timberline at Emmett. We've got a broadcast team doing some Emmett games this year. So keep an eye on the broadcast schedule. We'll be adding some games as the year goes on, as the season goes on. We've got about half the season scheduled right now, but we'll still be adding games as we go along. So keep an eye on it.
IdahoSports.com, your home for schedules. We'll have rosters on there. We'll have photo galleries. We have the game streams, Paul, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
If you want to engage with us on social media, it's real easy to do. We're active on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Find us, like us, friend us, whatever it is. And we want to hear from you. Where's your team? Who you're pulling for? What do you like? What can we fix? Paul, we can't do anything about your face. Sorry about that.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
It really is what it is.
Now, Paul's the boss, so this is basically the one chance I have to take a pot shot. Now, as soon as this ends, he's going to take one of these helmets and flog me with it. But
probably that one, blood won't show as bad.
It won't. We can just scrub it off really quick. But hey, just get my shots in while I can. But there's your social media. We love hearing from people online. So feel free to drop us a line, whether it's Twitter, whether it's Facebook, whether it's Instagram. We are available on 3. Want to send a special thank you to Lauren and Tyson, our producers and director on this show. They're the ones that are pushing all the buttons and moving all the knobs and everything, so we sound somewhat normal and look about as normal as we're capable of looking.
Really can.
Also, Greg Carpenter, the athletic director here at CUNA High School, the location where we're shooting this. Want to move it around in future years.
Yes.
So, if you want us to come to your school, well, we gave you all the social media tools. let us know, and maybe we'll come do this at your school next year. You've been watching the 3A IdahoSports.com football preview. We'll be doing one from all of them, 5A down to 1A Division II. So be looking for all of those here in the next. Well, go watch them all now. What are you waiting for? I'm Will Hoenike. He's Matt Harris. He's Paul Kingsbury. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you on August 26th.